welcome to a new episode of Behind the Lens. And in today's episode I'm going to discuss the Laowa or Phoenix Optics 100mm f2.8 2:1 magnification for macro lens. So it's this lens. Yeah, and before I do so, a bit of history. I own the Sigma A70 f2.8 for Sony full frame. For a year I took about 3,000 pictures on them and I never liked the results. It was like 2% of the pictures were good. I really didn't like that lens. For some reason the lens and myself never got used to each other, so I sold it off. And I went to look for a new lens, one better suited to what I really wanted, and I ended up with Laowa, or Phoenix Optics. And this here is the 100mm, and I chose it for multiple reasons, but the main reason is that this is a purely manual lens. So if you go into Lightroom and you want to select on the type of lens, you just get a few dots. And interestingly enough, the lens is being recognized once you go into the development mode. So if you want to edit your pictures, then it is in the list. So it's kind of bizarre, but it also indicates you that there is no, as you can see, kind of pins here. As you can see in this one here, you see the pins. Well, that is the electronic connections, which the Laowa doesn't have, and it also makes that the experience here is purely, except for your ISO, your focus zones and your shutter speed, it's purely manual. So the aperture ring here is very smooth and it clicks and you feel it. As you can hear. Now the interesting thing is you see the macro magnification ratios here once you start using this for photography, and you see the actual distances as well. Now you normally don't look at it, but especially in the beginning it's pretty handy. As in body, let me just show you, it has in body focusing. Just like this, and most of the lenses I have, I really don't like extending barrels. So what is the photography experience and filmography experience? So what I've done is I went outside today. It's been very, very cold in the Netherlands over the last 2 weeks, and there's actually snow and ice. So, perfect blue sky, snow, it's perfect for fast shutter speeds and low ISOs. So I went with the Sony A7 III, mounted my DJI Pocket 2 on top of it, pointed the camera downwards with the lens on it, started filming from the camera with the comment from the lens above. This is quite complex, I've never done it before, but I'm quite pleased with the results. Let's watch at this. You'll hear my commentary via the wireless Go, mounted on this camera. It's dual screen. But I think it gives you a very good overview on how this lens behaves, and then in the end you'll also see some of the pictures that came out of it. So let's enjoy it, and then I'll be back later on. If you go on f5.6, you see here that you really have to bunk up your ISO. Put it here on 500, and now we get it into focus. Now the shutter speed can be a bit higher, around 500. Can bunk the ISO down now, and now we need to start focusing. ISO now at 320. I'm waiting for my yellows to come up. And now we have the good settings. So now that gave you a pretty good feel and indication on what my experience was and where some of the challenges might be. Now the interesting thing about this lens is, and this kind of makes it cool, this is one of these lenses, where you have to get used to, and you have to make it work for you, and you have to adjust your own technique a bit. But it's not only limited to macro photography, and that is a great thing. You can use it as a portrait lens or even street photography or landscaping, but once you get that manual focus here, once you get that right, as I'll show a few pictures, it's not too many, it really is rewarding. So for anybody considering this lens, yes, it does come with a learning curve, and no, you don't have the luxuriousness of autofocus or image stabilization, but a normal tripod in some situations will work wonders for photography. For videography, yeah, I use it in the way I did, but I'm not a videographer, so that's up to you. But I can say that the aperture and zoom rings, I think that they're very good. Yes, you see a bit of jitter, but that's because, you know, I'm not a videographer. I think if you're an experienced videographer, you know how to do this. As the barrel doesn't extend outwards, it's purely internal focusing, it's great as well. So for the design of it, I really give it 5 stars. I love this thing. For the usability, I give it 3 stars now, because I'm just in the middle of my learning curve, but later on I'll probably upgrade it to 4 or 5. The image quality, however, is something that I'm very impressed about, as is the sharpness, that I sometimes can't get it right. That's my own doing, but I see the potential this camera has. Here I go again, camera, lens has. Yeah, and if once I master it a bit better, I'm sure that I'll get some wonderful shots out of it. The bokeh with 100mm is very smooth, as you can see in some of the examples that are following. Yeah, so all in all, I would say if you're really considering buying a lens, you could consider a macro lens, but also a lens which has a bit more body and a bit more purpose to it. I think this is a very good consideration you could take. Now, if you want to see more samples, you can either go to my website, which you see here, behindthelens.blog, or you can visit my Facebook page, which is Paul Takes Photos, or Behind the Lens with Paul at Behind the Lens. Yeah, so you can follow that as well. Anyways, guys, you can see the links you can see the links below. If you have any questions, please ask me. I'm always trying to respond as quick and as soon as I can. And thank you for watching.